In the land of Tamriel, there's no shortage of bandits, marauders, and thieves. I mean, hell, there seems to be an almost unlimited supply of these individuals, which makes me wonder where they come from. In fact, there are so many thieves that there are multiple guilds centered around thievery. The Kimona Tong, the Baal Molagma, Wharf Rats, Somerset Shadows, and of course, the Thieves Guild. But with all of these thieves and factions dedicated to thieves, one may start to wonder who is the greatest thief ever in Tamriel. But do not worry, my fellow hirelings of House Telvanni, for I, Master Neloth, will discuss who I believe are the greatest thieves, and at the end of the video, I will state who I believe is definitively the greatest thief in Tamriel. Now, similar to my Greatest Warriors video, which you should totally check out if you haven't already, the protagonists in the Elder Scrolls games will not be counting, as those characters are seen more as blank slates to do with as you please. Also, this is not a ranked video, so with the exception of the last individual I will mention, nobody in this video is in any specific order. And lastly, this is simply my opinion, and you may have a different idea on who the greatest thief is, especially considering the definition of stealing and thievery can be rather abstract. With all that being said, let me steal your attention away with this video. Mercer Frey. Mercer Frey was a Breton Nightblade that was originally the leader of the Thieves Guild in Skyrim during the 4th era. Now, already, being the guild master of the Thieves Guild is already a notable achievement, and you don't get into that position unless you truly are one of the greatest thieves. However, not only was he a guild master for 25 years, but before that, he was inducted into the Nightingales, which was a sub-faction of the Thieves Guild dedicated to the Daedric Prince Nocturnal. The Nightingales typically only have 3 members at a time, and are usually inducted from the Thieves Guild itself, so being a member of this order demonstrates even further that Mercer was a phenomenal thief before being a guildmaster, and also being a Nightingale granted him great power that allowed him to be a more successful thief. So, being a guildmaster and a Nightingale is all well and good, but what has he actually stolen? Well, I'm so glad I asked, because the greatest item that he has stolen was the skeleton key from the Twilight Sepulchre, right under the nose of the other Nightingales and Nocturnal herself, which is bold as hell. Mercer then stole a great number of things using the skeleton key, like an unidentified object from Castle Dower from behind an armory door and a dwarven puzzle-locked chest. But the other greatest thing that Mercer stole was every scrap of wealth from the Thieves Guild vault, including every atom of gold, jewels, and plans for future heists. And on top of all of that, right before Mercer Frey was killed, he almost got away with stealing the eyes of the Falmer, which were 2 very large and very valuable gemstones. And Mercer Frey would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for that meddlesome dragonborn. Gentleman Jim Stacey. Gentleman Jim Stacey was a Redguard master thief that was also a guild master of the Thieves Guild, but this time in Morrowind during the 3rd era. Now, there is very little known about Jim and his accomplishments as a thief, but like with Mercer, being a guild master of the Thieves Guild already proves he is very capable in the art of theft. When Jimmy Stacey was guild master, he was also put in a difficult position, because not only did many Dunmer dislike foreign guilds like the Thieves Guild, but the Kimona Tong was kicking their ass, and without his scheming, the Thieves Guild could have been wiped off the face of Mundus. Because of this, he is also credited with recreating the Baal Molagma, which was a sub-faction of the Morrowind Thieves Guild, who stole from the rich and gave to the poor. Lastly, Jim Stacey also has the skeleton key in his possession. It is unclear how he was able to obtain the key, but he likely stole it or was granted it by Nocturnal herself. Whatever the case is, it clearly shows that Stacey is a damn good thief with a very good heart as well. Karliah. Going back to Skyrim in the 4th era, we have Karliah. Karliah was a Dunmerry thief who was also a member of the Thieves Guild and the Nightingales. Now, Karliah is interesting because while Mercer was being a guild master for 25 years, Karliah was on the run for 25 years, evading the Thieves Guild because she was being framed for the murder of Gallus, the former guild master before Mercer Frey. Being on the run for 25 years, Karliah was very good at hiding from the world and evading the Thieves Guild, always covering her tracks and never sleeping in the same place twice. On top of this, while being on the run, she was also able to extort valued contacts of the Thieves Guild, and even stole a large chunk of the meadery market from Maven Blackbriar. Now, we know that she is very good at being elusive and being extortive, but what about her makes her a good thief? Well, as I said before, she was also a member of the Nightingales, which is a very exclusive group, showing she was already proficient at being a thief before getting Nightingale powers. But aside from this, according to one thief, she was able to heist more in a month than some thieves could heist in a year. So, because Karliah was able to heist so much, and she also has the power of being a Nightingale, that is why she is on this list. Also, this has nothing to do with her being a thief, but fun fact, Karliah is actually the granddaughter of Queen Baronziah, according to a book written by Gallus called The Nightingales Volume 2. The Grey Fox. Now, the Grey Fox is not actually a single individual, but rather it is an identity handed down from one guildmaster to a newer guildmaster in the Cyrodiilic Thieves Guild. However, I am going to count all of the Grey Foxes as one individual, because on their own, lore-wise, we don't know much about what they did, so to make this easier on myself, we're going to group them all together. The Grey Fox was born after stealing the Grey Cowl from the Daedric Prince Nocturnal herself. Funny how Nocturnal, the patron of thieves, is always getting robbed. Anyways, after robbing Nocturnal blind, the identity of the Grey Cowl went on a 300-year crime spree, robbing people and using special abilities from the Grey Cowl, like going invisible and knowing when the guards were approaching. Because of this, the Grey Fox became a legend to the beggars and thieves and a myth to the common folk. Additionally, the Grey Fox is also the leader of the Thieves Guild in Cyrodiil, so similar to Jim Stacey and Mercer Frey, the one who assumes the identity of the Grey Fox is already a very skilled thief before donning the cowl and becoming the leader of the Thieves Guild. Also, the hero of Kvatch eventually becomes the Grey Fox. However, certain infamous acts the hero performs, like stealing an Elder Scroll, happens before becoming the Grey Fox, so that act will not be counting for the Grey Fox. Also, the hero of Kvatch doesn't count on this list like I said earlier. And now, for the character that I believe is definitively the greatest thief in Tamriel. Maybe you have heard of him, maybe you haven't, but it is none other than Rajin the Purring Liar. Rajin, also known as the Cat King of Thieves, the Cat Who Walks, the Footpad, and the Trickster God, was a Khajiit master thief whose deeds were so legendary in life and in death that many Khajiit revere him as a literal god. One of Rajin's acts that ascended him to a thieving legend and then a thieving god was stumbling upon 3 Daedric princes, Azura, Mephala, and some other, arguing over who had dominion over the night. Rajin took this opportunity to seduce Mephala by appealing to her vanity, and I shit you not, it worked. And as they made love, Rajin stole the Ring of Khajiit from Mephala's arm. While making his escape with the Ring of Khajiit, he also just happened by the Ebony Blade and stole that too, because Rajin is just chill like that. Rajin would then constantly use the Ring of Khajiit to become a living legend among his fellow Khajiit. Another one of Rajin's legendary escapades was stealing a black book from Hermaeus Mora himself. Hermaeus Mora eventually found the black book again, but only because Rajin allowed him to. Sadly, the Ring of Khajiit rebelled against Rajin and then disappeared, leaving him helpless before his supposed many enemies, and he died. However, death never actually stopped the legend of Rajin, because while living, he often stole the shadows of other people and turned them into his own, and these shadows of Rajin eventually adopted their own life and personality, often mimicking Rajin himself. One of the most infamous acts performed by Rajin's shadows was stealing a tattoo from the neck of Empress Kintyra, which is beyond impressive. He also had a drinking competition with the Daedric Prince of Debauchery Sanguine, which is also kind of impressive as well. Rajin's shadows would also be seen many times afterwards, however, they behaved less like thieves and more like a god granting wishes with unforeseen consequences, similar to Clavicus Vile. So, Rajin is clearly the greatest thief in Tamriel because of his mythical deeds as a thief, often stealing from Daedric gods, and who knows how many regular mortals he stole from. I mean, this man fucked Mephala and stole her ring simultaneously. He stole literal shadows from people, and he stole a tattoo from an empress. Just beyond legendary. And that's all I wrote, a video where I figure out who the greatest thief in the Elder Scrolls series is. Now, this was all completely based on my opinion, so if you have an idea for who you think the greatest thief is, maybe comment down below, create discussion and whatnot. And I will see you whenever the fuck I decide to upload again. House Telvanni be with you.
Please, O hero of Skyrim, I shall be ever so grateful.